Hello and welcome to Pat O'Keefe's World of Curiosities. And to let you know, we are on twice a month now. 1 month or 1 week, we have an interview with someone, and the next week that we are on, we offer to you Pat and Zia and Pat's witchy wonders. So Zia, what's on the docket for tonight? Because we're getting close to Halloween.
Well, hey everybody. Thank you for joining us. Come on in. We're live. We're live. Come talk with us. So, what we're going to talk about tonight, it's October. It's haunt season. What better thing to talk about than ghosts? The veil is thinning. We can feel it as we inch closer to Halloween and Day of the Dead.
Hmm.
But, you know, ghosts is something that me and is a topic me and Pat are both pretty well versed on. I do a little ghost walk in October on Saturday nights. And I try to be pretty entertaining and I talk about like all of the folklore of Ashe County, and that ends up being mostly about monsters more so than ghosts, but like haints is one of the words we use for ghosts in Appalachia. I guess that's just like a offshoot of the word haunt. But anyways, where should we start? There's different types of ghosts. This is kind of like how I like to start out the ghost walk. So, and Pat, if there's anything that I forget about, these type of ghosts, you say what you know about it. And also I want to say for anybody watching live, say hi. And if you have a haunted story, like something that you've experienced yourself, a paranormal experience, if you've seen ghosts or something strange has happened to you, we want to know about it. Let's have a little chat and talk about it. So, types of ghosts we have, um, an intelligent haunting, which would be seems like you could communicate with the spirit. um, a residual haunting would be like there's energies seeming to still be left over in a space. And then we've got poltergeists, which means noisy ghost in German. And that is actually said to be like a person's own psychic energy that's created this entity. It's not that it's someone that's passed, or really, I don't think that most of the time ghosts aren't the product of that's not really somebody's soul left over here, is what I want to say. I don't believe that's necessarily the case. Most of the time, it's probably just like residual or leftover energies. However, uh, just because, time is not linear. So it's not like point A to point B, past and present and future, you know what I'm saying? So it's said to be a spiral where everything's happening around us all at one time, and we're on this timeline where we can only perceive what the place we're at right now. But sometimes you'll be able to see something that may have happened in the past, another timeline that's happening. So what do you have to say about that, Pat?
Well, just a few things. One of them is ectoplasm, and the way that a ghost may present itself is in this like mist form. And I will tell you, I've taken tens of thousands, literally, photographs over the decades I've been going to haunted locations, and I have shot one ectoplasm that was actually developed into a face, which was absolutely fascinating. And this was at St. Albans Sanatorium. I'm going to be up there tomorrow night. I'm actually reading, and all of the readings of the money that I get, or the funds that I get from reading tomorrow night, is going to be donated to St. Albans for the upkeep of the old asylum. And so ectoplasm, and it may shape into a mist, it may move back and forth, it may start to solidify into an actual being, or another object, or I shouldn't say entity, but ghost, like a dog. I actually saw ectoplasm, be created into a dog, and there was no doubt that this was a small dog. And this was actually at the rectory, and this was where was it? It's in Ohio near Cincinnati, I believe, is where I was. But it was called the rectory. And what was so sad about this location is downstairs they actually had dog fights. I mean, to the death using pit bulls. And what I saw upstairs was just a small dog, right? And I didn't know anything about this sort of thing, and I still don't want to know about it. But I was told that this small dog was probably what they call a bait dog.
Oh no.
Yes,
Mm.
they throw this to the dogs to kind of hype up that energy to make it more exciting for the people who are paying to be there. And then we have orbs.
Yeah.
I have one orb picture, one out of all of those photos that I know for a fact is an orb, and I'll tell you where it was taken. It was taken in a graveyard in Savannah, Georgia, and I will never forget it because it was overcast, so there was no, possibility of reflection of the light, right? And this was massive. It was like this, and it was actually outside of one of the grand old tombs, above ground tombs in this graveyard. So it can exhibit as something very, very bright. It can be small. It doesn't have to be as large as that. But what really signifies an orb as different is, once again, this internal light that just seems to glow from it. And also the fact that it moves independently, okay? Independently of where you are pointing the lens. Because if it only moves the way that your camera is moving, it's probably some reflection in the lens that is happening from somewhere. So that's one. And if anybody knows of any other qualities of an orb that I haven't mentioned that truly identifies it as an orb, and I don't want to make people mad, but it's much more rare than most people believe, because they often catch these orbs. And by the way, that orb I caught was during the day. During the day, so
Oh,
there was no light and no light source. So if you go down to a basement and you're walking around, you've just really mucked up, if you will, or raised up because of your feet going across the floor. All of these particles of dirt, of dust. And so you shoot your camera, and if it's at night, you're going to have a flash. So what's happening is we've got these particles near the camera lens, and when that flashes, it bounces, right? And so it looks like you've got thousands of souls. This is a place where thousands of souls. No, no, I'm sorry to disappoint you. But if you get something that's very unusual, also make sure that it's not a bug that you are seeing that's close to the camera once again, and you've got that light bouncing back. I've seen people say, "Oh, this is a fairy," and actually it's just a cricket. So, we have to be careful with
absolutely.
cameras and this whole idea of orbs. And we have living ghosts. This is one that's near and dear to my heart. I'm a psychic medium, and energy is what I connect with. And a living ghost is like someone who is in they can be in a coma, right? And you're still able to connect with their soul, with their spirit, even though the body is still alive. It's also called astral projection or remote viewing, because that's what that person is doing, is they're leaving their body and they're able to interact. Or someone like me is able to, if you will, go and touch that body, and I'm able to interact with the soul. But what's really interesting is, in Japanese lore, this is can be a person that wants to do harm, that wants to haunt, if you will, another human being. Say someone has done you wrong. And so in the sleep state, you may go and you may taunt or torture that person while they too are in the sleep state, or when they are awake, which is really, really fascinating. And then, we've got inanimate object ghost. Now, all that means is something that is stuck to an inanimate object. And I'll give you a quick example. one time I was on a radio show and a woman was being haunted. There was a telephone call that came in at the same time every day, and on the other end was static. And she didn't understand this. And I told her, I said, there's something that you have brought in that is old, that is an antique. I am telling you, it is connected to that. And she said, well, I haven't had anything new. And then she stopped and she said, oh, I bought an antique desk. And I said, where does the phone sit? On that desk.
Uh,
So this yes, so the inanimate object is actually where the soul has connected with or melded its energy with and has stayed with, which is unique. And my husband, actually, my ex-husband, I should say, actually brought home a beautiful red velvet chair. And I'll never forget. I looked out the window and I saw this little old man sitting in this chair. And as much as I wanted that velvet chair, I told my husband, I said, no, we've got to sell that because sometimes you have to choose. Do I want to bring this energy into the house? Because this was a lively old man, and I promise you, he would have just made his presence known. And I was dealing with two teenagers. It's like no can do. And so, we've got, I'm sure, others than that, because spirits manifest in so many different ways. But I think that we've covered really what I would consider, other than funnels. We talk about funnel ghosts. Sometimes we'll see funnels rather than an orb, right? And that
oh,
funnel may be moving this way and that way. Again, make sure it's not an insect that is simply moving to and fro, right? And again, make sure that that it has an independent movement. In other words, if it's just moving in the same direction that your camera is moving in, it may be a reflection, or you may actually have something on the lens of your camera. So be very, very careful. Remember, a lens is incredibly complex. I mean, you may have 9 or more pieces of glass that are put together in such a way that any light that comes through is bouncing around in those 9 pieces, right, of glass, and it can create anomalies that are not necessarily paranormal in nature. Now I'm gonna hand it back to you. See ya.
um, so you said orbs, that the way that you know that they're like giving off their own light, right? Because yeah, a lot
Mhm.
of the time people see the dust particles. Recently, we had caught something. My cousin had caught something on camera in my mama's backyard where it looked like a little like fairy or something walking. And I know that it wasn't an insect because insect will just go where they want to go. They don't like hover and then just slowly move and have like a kind of uh look like they know what they're doing or a sentient
Right.
way that they're moving.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was talking about, right? The independent movement, and I think I saw that, didn't I? Zia, you
Yeah,
shared it with me?
it's pretty interesting, I gotta
Yep,
say. And it was
yep,
caught a few different times as well. It seemed to like hover. And then sometimes it would get brighter, then it would go up in the air. It was wild. I don't know. We haven't caught it lately, but speaking of like the veil thinning, what I also mean is not only is it cold, gets colder this time of year, there's like this air pressure change. A lot of the time when it's sort of foggy, cool weather and there's that air pressure change, then, there's moisture in the air. That's a lot of the time when you'll see spirits manifest. And so actually, I noticed like at the beginning of August, we had a few days here where it gets real foggy, like here where I live in this low laying little valley. Um, so and in September was whenever we caught that, and it was a time like that too. And I had felt like the veil's thinning. It's getting to be that time of year. And something else happened at that time too. It was during that same week, or where I had thought something went behind me. I thought it was my cat, and then she was over here, and then she went and followed it and was meowing, looking for it. And then we were discussing about the lights and stuff at my mama's, because it was in her backyard. Then I heard something just thump, and I'm like, what was that? She thought it was me kicking the wall where we were sitting at the bar, but it wasn't. And I went to check if anything had fell down, and it didn't. So I don't know what that was. But whenever the veil's thin and you'll maybe see something out of the corner of your eye, hear stuff. And even though it is getting to the end of October, I still haven't felt like that lately. So to me, it's more like the air pressure change and like fog, when there's more moisture in the air too. Um, but it's getting there. It's getting more spooky. It seems to be more like that once um after October's over, more so, and then it gets more to November. Um, and you're talking about ectoplasm. There was a lady that came on the ghost tour one time, or she was just talking to me about because she knew I'd do a ghost tour, so she told me about ectoplasm, and that she like saw it there almost like a slime, like they would have in Ghostbusters or something like that. And yeah, and then it wasn't there anymore. So I'm like, you should have tried to like collect it, but I guess you really couldn't. That was interesting. She said she lived in a really old house that had been different things throughout the years. And a lot of different energies going through there. And play you outside could be haunted too. You could see a ghost outside, it doesn't have to be indoors. One of the most common ghosts that people see is hitchhiker ghosts when they're driving, people on the side of the road, and then they'll just disappear. And there is something to do, seems to be like ghosts manifesting when there's rain or fog or near bodies of water, or disappearing soon. And like they'll be walking towards the like a creek and then just disappear. That's some of the stories that I tell here.
Mhm.
That's interesting because they have that, similar thing. But
Well, it's
um
interesting you said that, at Halloween, because it is a fire festival, right? Because now it's getting cold. I know that most people have seen the old version or the new version of a movie called The Burning Man, which it was true. It was something that they would do, and I'm talking about the ancient Celts, and they would build a wooden structure and they would put slaves in it. They would put goats. It really was a sacrifice, and then they would set it on fire in order, to make way, if you will, so that the sun would come back in the new year. And then we have, if you go straight down the calendar, the old calendar, you go to Beltane, which we often forget is another fire festival. And in this festival, though, we are seeing the change. We are leaving completely. It usually occurs May 1st through 3rd, somewhere in there, and it usually happens, or it does happen between spring and summer. We're letting go, if you will, of the early spring, and now we are welcoming in the summer months. So the meaning has difference. It is different, but it's also a time in the year when the veil is very, very
yeah,
thin because of such drastic changes, and we can reach out to the ancestors. Do you do a what they call a dumb supper around this time,
I
Zia?
haven't yet, but that's something I want to do in the future. Have you done it before?
I've done it. What you do, for those that don't know what a dumb supper is, a dumb, of course, doesn't mean like intellectually deficient. It
Yeah.
means that we aren't speaking. And so what you do is you set a place for the ancestors, or several places if you want, however you want to do it. And then you provide them, or put a plate out for them and invite them to dinner. And everyone is very, very silent whenever you are having this dinner, and then you finish it up. Some people give the food as an offering outside, right? So they offer it to wildlife, or any animal that may want to partake. And some people would do other things with it, like leave it out overnight, so that the ancestors can visit. You can take it and bury it, whatever you want to do with the energy of this. In fact, some people may move it from the table to their altar. It would just depend on the individual. But I find this time of the year absolutely fascinating. So, what about you, Zio? What's your favorite ghost story that has happened to you? And have you had anything happen on one of your ghost walks?
I wish I could say something crazy has happened, but I really don't have any like, super crazy experiences, but I was going to mention when you're talking about the change, Walpurgis knocked as the 31st of April, and then May 1st is it, so yeah, that's like half and half, we're every the 6 month point of the year. So yeah, this time of the year is, in Day of the Dead, you think of that too, is a good time to uh venerate ancestors, just be thankful. And some people like to do like divination for Halloween too, because it's kind of like the witch's new year. Or Samhain is, um there's some family ghost stories, and I've told a few before here, but one of the main things I like to talk about is my papaw. He was bulldozing some land, clearing land over there, just right here, right where I'm at. And they found like burnt charcoal in the ground, like someone was burning, had fires and stuff, and apparently somebody had found an artifact like pottery. And then that night, everybody in that household heard like drumming and chanting. So apparently they had stirred up the spirits of the land, maybe, released energies. And like I said, this is the same place that orb was seen, but I feel like that's maybe more of a nature spirit. But who knows, really? That's the whole thing about ghosts, is it's the unknown. We don't really know, and maybe that's part of the fun of it, is to not totally know. Maybe we'll never know.
Well,
But
it's definitely the mystery of the other side, and until you've touched that other side and have stayed for a while, so to speak, none of us really know all of the answers. I will tell you one of the things that happened to me. I, I am a medium, and if I take on a missing persons case, I'll take it on pro bono. I don't accept money for that. It's my way of giving back. And I had a family come to me, and they wanted to know what happened to their brother and son. So I started to connect with this gentleman, and I felt like metal in my mouth, like oily metal. And then I felt like, that he had pulled the trigger, but I didn't proceed all the way to the end of that. But I have people in front of me who are very upset. Of course, they have a missing loved one. And I didn't want to be that person that just whatever comes out of my mouth, because this is earth shattering for someone. You look at them and you tell them, I'm sorry, but your loved one is gone. You better be sure, or at least think to the best of your ability, that this is what has happened. So I told them I would get back with them the next day because I wanted to meditate about this, to pray about this.
yeah,
And I swear to you, all of a sudden, I felt that oil and that metal in my mouth, and I felt this side of my head just explode. And I'm like, well, that's the answer, but did I just have a stroke? I mean, it was so, so profound. And usually what we call shadow death isn't. It's very light. Like I might start stroking my throat if someone died of throat cancer. You see what I'm saying? Or I might start feeling indigestion or that pressure here if someone died of a heart attack. But in this case, it was painful. And I'm like, did I just have a stroke? So I ended up in the emergency room of the
yeah,
hospital. So yes, spirits they can present themselves in a way that any of us could be touched by this. Most people have the ability to connect with the other side. It's just a skill set that they haven't developed. And I
yeah,
always say that, yeah, I always say that, a lot, most people can do these things, but then there are people who are born with these gifts, and it's just been a learning process, like an arc, if you will, their entire lives, and that's what it's like. So yeah, this whole idea of connecting with a ghost or speaking with a ghost, it can be profound. It can be a combination of symbols, it can be a full conversation, or it can be very physical, like what I just described. So
yeah. That's very interesting as well. And I do tarot readings, and a lot of the time, people do see that as being a medium thing, and I'm like, well, I'm not necessarily a medium. But like you said, does have that kind of like everybody does have psychic ability, and there are differences between like being a psychic and a psychic medium. Um, but yeah, I probably could do that if I had took the time. And but being working at my shop, it's busy and too much stuff going on, so I do have to keep it kind of simplistic. I can't I have to be in a certain state of mind to be able to really like get in a trance, listen to certain music, and have frankincense is a good incense to use when you're doing like psychic work or trying to connect with spirits and stuff.
Yeah. And you can also use, you can use other things. You can use crystals if you want to. Like I have a ring that has both it's a dark blue tiger's eye. It's not a ruby. It's oh my gosh, the blue one. Ah, getting
Sapphire.
old. Oh, yes, sapphire. It's a dark blue sapphire, but it's also got that reflection that looks like a tiger's eye. You know what I'm saying? Right in
Yeah.
the middle. And and then on both sides of that, I have what is oh look, we've got some folks that have been talking.
Yeah,
Lord,
I
we're
was
sorry.
wondering.
Yeah, sorry about that. We got so into this subject this time. It was so good. And thank
Yeah.
you all. Let's see what Amy says. My most favorite experience was a flirty ghost at Corners Folly in Kernersville, North Carolina, at a paranormal conference. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What
Well,
happened?
yeah,
Well,
was
I went to Corners Folly with Amy one time. It was a lot of fun. And I felt like maybe it was, well, when there's a lot of people like already there, I don't really feel like something's haunted, because most of the time it's like their energy is pushing out other energies. But if it's like quiet and you just go in there, you can kind of feel like if it's haunted. What'd she say?
saying we have an ectoplasm photo here. It's a drawing that was framed. Very cool.
Hmm.
And let's see, we got Miss Millie. Is it Millie? Yes. Hello, Millie. Hello, ladies, she says. And then we have Amy again. The way I was taught orbs, technically, yes, it only has its own light. That's right. It moves on its own. My photo with lots, it's more dust or bugs. Yes, yes. Yeah, if you're getting 1,000, unless you are on a battlefield where literally thousands of people died, you're probably, you're not going to get 1,000 or even 100 orbs at once. Usually, it's going to be one or even two, maybe three, but usually one. Um, let's see, Alan May. Oh, hello, Alan. I've gotten people really mad at me for giving my opinion on this. As you said, Pat, a real orb will emit its own light instead of reflecting it. I didn't hear much about orbs until digital photography. Thank you for explaining this subject. Yes, thank you, Alan. Thank you for stopping in. It means a lot to us. It truly does. Amy, what about vortex? Yeah, I was kind of, when I mentioned funnels, that's really what I was thinking of. Is this whole idea of
Sorry.
vortex, but it's separate because vortex is actually the tunnel, if you will, that energy comes through. It's almost like a doorway. So yeah, a vortex for me, in my understanding of it, is more of a doorway, and then the funnel are those things that you see, they're stretched out. They almost look like worms on your camera when you capture one. I mean, it looks like you, oh, and here we go. Star sapphire. Yes, ma'am. It is a star sapphire, and thank you for that. It's very powerful. And let me mention why I use both the star sapphire and then obsidian on both ends. Okay. The obsidian actually draws energy, or onyx. I apologize. Onyx. It draws ghostly energy, but the star sapphire actually protects. And it works both ways. I mean, really, but you want to have some protection if you do this kind of work. And I tend to use obsidian and onyx. Those are my two favorites. And if I'm reading, I usually use black tourmaline. So what are y'all's favorite crystals that you like to use for protection?
Yeah,
And
let us know.
yeah, and yeah, let us know.
I like to
So
do, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Okay, I like to do black tourmaline, wear black tourmaline, and moldavite is good for protection, but also it helps to bring like spiritual experiences, and you can use them in tandem with smoky quartz and other quartz. And smoky quartz is said to, I've heard, to bring spirits near, and it can convert negative into positive energy. When it comes to the psychic stones, when I'm reading, I put out calcite, um, selenite, moonstone, or really it's white labradorite, rainbow moonstone, and labradorite. Those are some good ones, and
Mhm.
also amethyst would be a good one for that too. Um,
And one of the things that I use if I'm doing mediumship work or if I'm doing like a past life regression, I'm a qualified hypnotist trained through the National Guild of Hypnotists, and that is a piece of amber because amber resonates with the past. And so if you're doing any work like that, then one of the things that you can do is ask the sitter, the person in front of you, to hold it and it, like I said, it resonates because what we do is we connect with that person and their energy. And so if they're able to connect with the past better because they are holding that, then they act as a conduit, if you will, for us to connect with energetically. So we've got to wrap up. This is such a good segment and so much more. No, I know this Great Southern Gothic has a lot going on. How long are you going to be doing your ghost walks?
well, we only got 2 more Saturdays in the month, and well, the next one will be last one will be November 1st. So yeah, just 2 more left, and before it gets too cold and everything, and then and yeah. Oh, what happened, Pat?
Oh,
It says you're on with audio on. Okay, now. Okay.
no, that's okay. I'm trying out some things. Bear with me, people. Bear with me.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but we are yeah, we're wrapping up. What about your new escape room?
Okay.
What's going on with that?
Well, right now it's trick or treat themed. So, um, it's you got to actually trick or treat. You go up to these monsters that are like motion activated, and you have to find stuff that they have that will help you get out. And you got 30 minutes to do it. You got to find the candy, and then that's how you win. And then the next theme I'm going to do Nightmare Before Christmas, so that'll be fun.
Okay, and
Oh,
this is her website. So if you want to, check it out, you can go there. And she also has an amazing store. I mean, I get a lot of my goods there. We're doing just a soft sale for her right now because she does, small business. It's so important to offer support to our small businesses,
well, thank you.
especially our little I shouldn't say little, but our metaphysical businesses. You
Yeah.
know, they offer so many different things that sometimes we just need or even want. But one thing I'd like to leave you all with, I am working on my documentary, and that is about Appalachian Granny Witches. Of course, Zia is one of the characters, if you will, that is in that. I'm really looking forward to this.
Me
And
too.
so she is, I'm trying to find our thing. There we go. And we are going to go down to share screen. Yes, I'm taking you with me. And then maybe and maybe not. I don't think it's, yeah. You know what? When you do this, it's right in front of you. So I can't see because I've got my, yeah, there it is. Here we go. All right. So
Cool.
this is a documentary. It's called There's Magic in the Mountains. It's about Appalachian Granny Women, and they were called Granny Witches. They would have never called themselves that, folks, ever.
Yeah.
These women, yeah, these women were old Bible. They believed in the old Bible, if you know what I mean, where there wasn't a lot of Well, there wasn't a lot of room for independent thought, let's put it that way. And these were good women. I mean, my granny was one, my mom was one, and I know on Zia's side of her family, they also had them. And these are just women that raised their families in these mountains, and it was hard. It was hard scrabble. I remember a story about my granny. She had 5 children that lived, and no woman made it out of these mountains, very few that didn't lose a child or two. But she had 4 children, and she had managed to corral them around a tree. And her last baby was too small to put in with the other children. So she strapped that baby like a little papoose on her back, covered it up, and she broke that ground with an old mule, which is what she had, and an old wooden plow with a metal, that metal V on the end. And she had to break that ground. She did that garden. She planted everything, and then she brought that garden in and she canned everything from it to keep those 5 little kids, herself and her husband, alive. Because my grandpa, he was in the lumber business, and he would go away all week. Down in Rich Woods, West Virginia, and he would come back on the weekends, and that's how they lived their lives for a long time before they were able to get other jobs. But this is about Appalachian Granny Witches, and if you want to like listen to some old time music, this woman.
You promised you'd meet me at Elm Spring and bring me some money and other fine things.
And this is Michelle Horan. Her music is going to be throughout the documentary. She has an authentic Appalachian voice. She is Appalachian, and she is from those mountains. So, I hope you check out our website. It's Granny Witch, GRANNIE, witch.com, and check it out. We are having the premiere next year, September 12th, 2026. So I hope to see you out there. It's going to be in Bristol, Virginia, at the Legacy 14 Theaters. So we're getting ready to leave. What do you have, Zia, before we take off?
Well, thank y'all for watching. I'm sure there's all kind of stuff we could talk about, more about ghosts and stuff. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all have a happy Halloween, happy Samhain, all that good stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I always say, and it's so true, without you, this would be a very lonely place. So we appreciate you. My apology for missing that week. We're doing it twice a month now because of the documentary. You saw it's a lot of work when you're everything from producer to sound to the camera person. So bear with me. Hopefully, we'll get this back on track. But we are offering it twice a month, and Zia's going to be with me for one of those weeks. And we love our Zia. She adds so much to everything, and that's Zia and Pat's witchy wisdom. So until next time,
Stay
stay.
curious.
Yes. Thank you all again. Bye bye.
Bye.
And listen, take care this Halloween.